Hey guys, so Force Awakens came out last night. It was pretty fun to watch, but the first thing, I wanted to do it last night, but I was like, you know what, I'll hold off. I really wanted to talk more about the movie, but I wanted to do a review more so with the spoilers and just kind of give second thoughts on it, so this is my interpretation. I'm going to try and, I just tried it, but then I went on for 40 minutes, and I was like, okay, let's break it down a little bit. So the first thing I will say is watching the trailers now, it's pretty cool. Actually, the trailers did a really well job of not really revealing much, but I'm happy I didn't see them because it was really cool. I didn't watch anything, so I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know that Finn was going to be a rogue trooper. So, first things first, this film is basically a New Hope redo. That's what it is. It is basically, it follows the exact same storyline, the exact same concept, like even the climax is exactly the same. There's a character mentor death, there's all these things that are exactly alike to that of A New Hope. And that's not technically to say it's a bad thing, because that's what Lucas did. He tried to do that anyway with the prequels, is basically was to mirror what he did. That whole, it's poetry, it rhymes, that whole crap. So that's what they're kind of doing with this. Obviously they change a few things, and some of it's cool, some of it's a little bit questionable, but either way, it is a very entertaining movie. But let me go into a few things. So the first thing I want to talk about actually is Finn. Finn is one of my favorite characters in this film. He is such a cool aspect because he's a rogue trooper, which is exactly like Kyle Katarn from the Jedi Outcast games, which is cool because I'm going to point out later on that this movie actually did talk a lot about expanded universe, or they borrowed from the original expanded universe. So Finn being a rogue trooper was really cool because not only is he a rebellious person of the Empire, not only is he kind of like the rebellion's best thing for them in a long time, but he also just is a character who wants redemption, who wants to undo the things that were done to him, but he also wants to have his own life, but he's basically trying to find a purpose. Like, he's trying to do what he thinks a hero would do. When he's saving Rey, he keeps holding her hand, that's what he thinks he should do, but since he's obviously never had an aspect, he hasn't been brought up the perfect way. He is basically a child in a man's body with these sort of social interactions. So he's really cool. I think he's also the funniest person in the entire movie. I think John Boyega, apologies if I said that wrong, he was the best part of this movie in my opinion. He was my favorite character. He was just really cool. He was very funny, and I liked his arc. I think that he was cool because he's basically trying to do what's right even though he knows he can't do it, even though he knows that he's nowhere near his experience. Like when he fights Kylo Ren at the end, he knows he's going to get his ass handed to him, but he tries it anyway. He does it because he thinks that's what's right, and he gets his ass handed to him. But I still really liked his fight with him, and I think that he is definitely going to be one of the coolest characters that comes from the series. The next character I want to talk about is Rey. Rey was also really cool. She is basically our Luke Skywalker from A New Hope. She's on a planet, she's almost alone. She's basically fighting, she's living this mundane life, kind of hoping that something will come along, but when something does come along, she's almost afraid to take it. But that's when the BB-8 droid appears with the missing piece of the map for where Luke Skywalker is. And very much like A New Hope, they have to get off the planet. And that was one of the best jokes actually, is when they're running towards the ship and Finn's like, hey, what about this one over here? And she's like, no, this is Junker. And and then the ship they're running to blows up, and they're like, alright, we'll take the Junker. And then the camera pans over, and it's the Millennium Falcon. Nostalgia, great joke, and just a great reveal all in one go. That was a really good job on J.J. Abrams. But she's definitely going to be the most interesting character. Her and Kylo Ren are going to be definitely the most interesting characters to see how they develop and how they change and just what happens with their future. For two new people, Finn and Rey, I think they were done masterfully well by these actors. I think they are great. I like that they are the focus, because that's something, usually when you see something like this, you would think that, well, they're going to focus on the old characters. It's like, no, they're introducing them and they're passing the torch, but it doesn't look forced. That's something that was great. Like, I like this passing because it's not something that feels heavy-handed. It's not something that feels like it needs to happen. It flows. It feels natural. So I thought that her whole story was great. And there's some speculation that some of my friends were talking about that maybe she could possibly be Luke Skywalker's daughter. Maybe there's still this whole unanswered question of what happened with Luke and his Jedi Order and why Kylo Ren killed everyone, or tore apart his Jedi Order. So this is something that I really want to know what the hell happened for the last 30 years. Like, I was expecting a little bit more. There's a lot of questions. So we're not getting everything answered, but I really would have liked someone to put maybe 30 seconds of dialogue in about what happened in the past. But I guess we'll wait till next time. But Rey has one of the most controversial scenes, in my mind anyway, is when she finds the lightsaber. And the lightsaber, she basically gets kind of this whole past of what happened. Like, we see, well, what some people think is they see Kylo Ren killing the Jedi Order and then him amassing this power and kind of Luke failing and everything. But the only problem is, it's supposedly Luke's lightsaber and his father's before him, but that was the one that got off on Bespin. So I have no idea how they got that. That was the biggest plot hole. One of the biggest plot holes in my opinion, because where the hell did this lightsaber come from? Like, if it was green, that would have been fine, because that was the lightsaber Luke had. Maybe she thought that was what the lightsaber that Vader had. But the fact that it had all that power coming out of it, it obviously was Luke's, but it doesn't make any sense because it couldn't have been his father's before him. So that's something that they're definitely going to have to either talk about or whatnot. Also, another issue is how Poe, who's played by Oscar Isaac, who's an awesome guy, he's an awesome character, how he goes from getting Finn off of that Star Destroyer, blowing up from the ship, landing, and then somehow Finn and him not finding each other, yet Poe getting off the planet and leaving BB-8 behind, even though BB-8 was his entire mission. So that, I don't know, I think that's more of a wonder of what happened than how Bruce Wayne got back on Gotham Island. So that, that was a bit of a, okay, you couldn't have given 10 seconds more dialogue to explain how on Earth you got off the planet and then totally abandoned your mission, even though you had no idea that Finn would have completed your mission, because you knew that he was a rogue trooper, he wanted to get out of the system. So yeah, so that was a little bit of an odd little scene. And also going back to Rey's thing, when she gets out, when she has this revelation of everything with the lightsaber, she runs out into the forest, which I thought was such a silly scene because it's so heavy-handed. It's not happening because she needs a chill pill. She said she's going to get her own way off the island, off the planet. Well, where are you going to go, woman? There's no spaceships in the forest. It more so happens just for the sake of having Kylo Ren and her confront in the forest. It's a scene that happens because this scene needs to happen. Which was kind of one of the things I talked about in my review, was it feels like so many scenes are happening so quickly that it overtakes itself, and that not each scene has its own depth to it. It doesn't have this full construction to it. There are a few pieces that aren't as strong as the others, which is typical of any movie. Every movie has a flaw. But this one, it just felt, it was so action-packed. They probably put so much into it that sometimes they just skip over a little thing here and there. But it's obviously not something to majorly take away from the movie, but that's something that was definitely an aspect that I thought was going on with that movie. And then going back to the characters, Kylo Ren. Now, Kylo. At first I thought he was cool, then I thought he was a bitch. Now I'm kind of having second thoughts because, well, he definitely is an interesting character. The fact that his idol to him is Darth Vader, who was a machine, who was barely a human. And he's trying to be like that, but he can't because he is human. He wears the mask as a substitute because he's not deformed. Vader had to wear it because he needed it to survive. Kylo Ren wears the mask because he feels that's what he needs. He's doing all these things. He's doing what he believes will make him a Sith, make him a powerful Sith, but he doesn't have it in him because that's, or at least not yet anyway. The thing about Kylo Ren is he is basically the whole, this is cool to see a person who goes to the Sith but doesn't want to, isn't doing it because it's what they want, it's because it's easy, it's hard, it's too hard to keep in their emotions, to keep all this in check. It's easier just to give in to this hate, to give in to your fear. And that was something, it reminded me a lot of that character, that cat lady that you encounter on in Knights of the Old Republic, the one who goes to the dark side on Tatooine, and you convince her out of it. She says she does it because it's easy. She does it because she feels guilt. She does it because she feels abandonment. And that's what Kylo Ren is. Kylo Ren is this guy who's got this massive inferiority complex going on. And while he believes, he keeps on doing these things because he feels the light side pulling him back. So he's trying to do all these little things to prevent him from going back. But he's not doing them right because it's almost not in him to do it. But he's being manipulated by this Chancellor Snook. Now, the thing that was interesting about this guy is there's some thoughts that he might be Darth Plagueis. That would be cool. Or he's the Chancellor, somehow he's Sidious, having been able to, pass on his body, like maybe in the Dark Empire comics. Hey, they did have a planet killer in this, which was from the Dark Empire comics, which was pretty sweet. However, his CG was awful. I think that out of there's one big visual flaw I'd have to say is that Chancellor Snoke, sure, he's this giant imposed image. At first I was like, please tell me that's not his actual size. It's not actually him, it was a hologram. But the problem is he looks like a character from the Clone Wars show, the animated one. Not saying that's a bad thing, but when you've got this obvious animation style and you put it into Star Wars, it didn't look good. And Andy Serkis, it was right off the bat I knew it was Andy Serkis, but I'm waiting to see this character in person, not as a hologram, because I really hope he doesn't look this bad when we see him in person. But how the film rolls out is actually it is fun. It is fast paced. It has got great humor, as I've said before. It's got some of the best humor. I think it is the funniest Star Wars movie ever, and it's got some great jokes. But the problem is, as I said, the movie moves so fast, there's some things that are just kind of glossed over. Does anyone remember what the name of the planets were besides Jakku? I don't remember them. So, watching this, it was really fun. I had a lot of moments that were great. And now the big controversial one that's definitely going to make a few people talk about it is obviously Han Solo's death. Now the problem with this scene is, as great as it is, you can see it coming from about 15 minutes off. And especially it's when Chewie and Han go into that room to blow up the wall so the TIE fighters, or so the X-Wings can come in and dismantle the gun battery. They split up. I'm like, oh god, that's death dialogue written all over it. However, how that scene works is very well done because Kylo Ren knows his father's dead. That's why he goes onto the plank, because he wants to basically he knows his father will try and call him out. So that's what his plan is. And the whole time you can't really trust what Kylo Ren is saying, but we have this visual distinction of the colors on his face from the outside, for the sun's being sucked away by the giant planet gun. We see this duality of the colors on his face. We see him kind of conflicting with himself. And we see that he really is still conflicted, and it is really cool to see it. But then when the sun is gone and we just see this red on his face, and then we know that he kills Han Solo, that was like, oh my god, I can't believe he did it. But then afterwards he does it, he kind of has this face of confusion. He's like, why wasn't that as awe-inspiring as I thought it would be? I thought that would complete my training. Why didn't that complete everything? Why was that not what I wanted? So the fact that happened was actually really cool, and it's probably one of the best parts of Kylo Ren's character, is that he's now killed his father, but he still doesn't feel satisfied as a Sith. So now he's got even more guilty baggage on him. Mind you, the thing that I was a bit upset about, and this is my biggest complaint about Kylo Ren, is that he's well, okay, so he's a trained Jedi. He has extreme power. He's able to stop a friggin' blaster bolt with the Force, but he also seems to be a baby. Now, I'm not saying Anakin Skywalker baby. He's not that bad, thank goodness. But he definitely doesn't have... He has... His tantrums are silly. Like the second one was hilarious when the stormtroopers walk in and then turn around. But, I don't know. Again... Now, this is the reason why some people are thinking, well, maybe why doesn't he just kill people? And I thought that too, but then he's not actually as high up in the hierarchy with the First Order, Empire, whatever, as Vader was. As we see that with General Hux. General Hux and him are always kind of bickering with each other. So, and they're kind of always both fighting for the approval of Chancellor Snooky. So, this whole aspect of him just having this inner conflict is cool, and it's definitely going to get better in the next movies. But I just feel that it wasn't portrayed as best as it could be, just because of kind of his tantrums, and then his weakness. Now, this is something else that I thought very interesting. Rey is cool, but the problem is she just seems to be really good at everything. She's great at fixing stuff. She's great at piloting. And then she's really good at using a lightsaber. She beats Kylo. Kylo, who admittedly, yeah, he's been shot by Wookiee's bowcaster. And that was actually kind of cool. He's punching himself. He's punching the blood out onto the snow. That was cool, but the thing is, like, okay, how on earth are you beating a girl who's never used a lightsaber before? Or sorry, how are you being beaten by a girl who's never used a lightsaber before? So I thought that was, as cool as that scene was, I thought that was amazing choreography. The two guys from the Raid were in this movie, and that whole scene was really cool. The only issue with it was, yeah, like I said, she beats him, and I thought that was a little bit odd. I would have actually almost liked it that they had a stalemate almost, which in a sense they did because the ground erupts and we don't see them finish. But I just thought it was very interesting that he was beaten so easily. Mind you, Rey and Kylo Ren both have my favorite scene in the movie is when they have that battle of the minds with the Force when he's looking into hers, but he lets his guard down so she's able to look into his. And she's able to see, yeah, you're never going to be like Darth Vader. That was a cool scene. That was one of my favorite scenes in the movie because it just expressed so much about both characters. But then again, Rey is then able to Jedi mind trick a stormtrooper. Sure, she has to try it twice, but it's like, okay, you never knew you were Force power up until a day ago, if that, and now you're able to do the Jedi mind trick? Whoa, what was this about learning how to use the Force? Like, you haven't had any training! So I thought that was a little bit too much for me to believe. But again, that scene also was really funny. Oh, could you please drop your gun and you will drop your weapon. I will drop my weapon. I thought that was funny. But again, it is on New Hope. Like, the whole end climax is exactly like New Hope. They're blowing up a planet. Hell, there's even a trench run almost. So, and then after everything's done, when they come back home, Leia, who is totally devastated, well, you see that scene when Han dies, you see her sit down, like, oh no, it's mimicking kind of Obi-Wan's, like, I've just heard a million screams, all of a sudden be silenced. And I thought that was great, but the problem is then when they get back, Chewie just walks right by her. You know, Chewie and Han, Leia, they were a team, and then she was just like, oh hey, oh wait, my best friend died. I'll remember that in the next scene. So I thought I didn't like that. I thought Chewie would have said something, or I thought that was a little bit odd. But other than that, I love how the movie ends. Now, what I find so funny is that Mark Hamill is he's one of the top billed on the poster, yet he's got 30 seconds of screen time. And how it ends was sweet. I admit, I'm so stoked to see what happens with the next film. But speaking of people who have really short roles, Max von Sydow, hey there! Hey, bye-bye, Max von Sydow. Gosh, I think it's the shortest Star Wars cameo I've ever seen besides Luke's in this movie. We got two of the shortest cameos ever in Star Wars history. So, I thought that was kind of interesting. But in the end, like, the film is really fun. It's really fun to watch. But as I said earlier, there's so many scenes that happen. Like, stuff is moving so quickly that rarely do we get a chance to breathe. And it's funny because I say I love Mad Max because it's such a constant ferocity. But this one, like, there's something you can pick out of every scene with Mad Max. And for this, with Star Wars, you can't, there's only a few, there's like a moment here and there, but that's a little moment in the whole moment of the battles. So that's why, like, that whole fight scene when they're fighting on the planet with the X-Wings, like, I don't know, I wasn't digging it. I think because I'm just so used to much more closer up shots. Like, how the fight scenes with the dogfights were filmed were much different than that of the original trilogy. So that was something I didn't, like, it kind of didn't, which is weird because J.J. Abrams was really good with that stuff. So I found it a little bit odd that those scenes were a little bit lacking for me. But in the end, The Force Awakens was fun. But the problem, here's okay. Now I get to talk about this. I'm never going to give my opinion about this title until now. I think that the title doesn't really work for this film. Now, why is it called An Awakening? Why is that? Because the guy says it at one point? Now, he says this before Rey is discovered to be Force power. So, is it an awakening because they know there was a piece of where Mark Hamill went? That's what I thought was a little bit odd about it. I didn't think that was as great as I thought it was. It does definitely expand. It does relate to the whole reimbursement of the entire Star Wars franchise, but I thought just in the idea of Force and Awakening, it doesn't match as much as I thought it would anyway, just from the title. But again, I'm doing negative Nancy business here, but the film is really cool. There's just a few plot holes that definitely could have been addressed, maybe in like 10 seconds of dialogue, but we don't even know if we'll ever get some of these answers. But what is the big questions that people will want to know now for the next movie is, what's Kylo Ren's next move? Is Han actually going to come back from the death? No, he's probably not. What with Rey and Luke? What caused Luke to hide? But then why did he leave a path to be found? So that's something I definitely want to see. I want to see if he's actually been standing on that island for the last, 10 years or so. So I want to see where they expand. I want to see if Leia's going to kind of take a back seat, because that's what she did in this movie. She didn't do anything. Leia did nothing in this movie, mainly because Carrie Fisher sounds like she had 30 packs of cigarettes, which unfortunately, because Carrie Fisher just had had a lot of bad past with drug abuse and everything. So obviously that's an issue. But I just want to see. I would have wanted to see just something a little bit more. Oh, I could have been alright if it would have been longer. I wouldn't have minded that. I would have minded a little bit more depth into these characters and kind of their past and the histories, a little bit more about the lore, what the heck's gone on for the last 30 years. But in the end, Star Wars The Force Awakens is a solid 5 out of 7 because it is really fun. It has flaws, but it's still something you'll really enjoy. And it's definitely one of the most entertaining movies of the year. John Williams' soundtrack is really good. I forgot that I pre-ordered it and it's coming to my mailbox in the next few days. So I can't wait to talk about it and play it on my radio show. But yeah, so those are my thoughts about Star Wars. Oh, and one last thing. I wanted to talk about this with the planet gun thing. Alright, it looks like it's sucking up the sun when it recharges. So because the whole planet goes from nice forest to nuclear winter. Was it going to suck up the sun all in one go? Or was, did the sun have maybe 1 or 2 more times to shoot? Or was that it? If that sun was going to be gone after they shot it, what are you going to do? You're going to fly to the next sun? That's going to take, another million years. So I thought that gun had a little bit of issues. And then the final thought, I think J.J. Abrams did a really good job. I'm excited to see what happens in the next movies. And I can't say right now whether I'd rate it. It's definitely better than the prequels, obviously. I almost think it's better than A New Hope. Almost. Empire is still better. Actually, I would say this is better than Return of the Jedi. I would say. But I think that this movie definitely has some great moments to it. I think it has some great humor. I think it has some really fantastic characters. Like I said, there's just a few little holes in the whole puzzle that are missing, and maybe they'll be filled in the next movies. So either way, Force Awakens was fun, and I'm happy that I finally got to get all this off my chest. Sorry that the video is so long and I'm just sitting here in my chair, but I tried to do it and it was like an hour and something odd earlier, so I was like, yeah, no, I'll sit down to do this. So what did you guys think of it? Did you guys think that this is really good? Like, where would you rate this with the other Star Wars movies? Do you think that this was everything you wanted? Were you a little bit disappointed? What happened? What did you think? Have you even got to see it yet? So I was saying yesterday that I thought that maybe I wouldn't see it again. I'm more so wanting to see it again just to see if I'm right. I'm having the same thoughts I had when I saw Man of Steel. And I know it's weird because I remember like a lot of people love that movie and I was just like, I don't know if it's that great. So I'm kind of getting that same vibe here with The Force Awakens. Not that bad. The Force Awakens is still way better than Man of Steel, but I think it could have been better. That's like, I'm not saying that it's bad. I think it's pretty good. I think it's really good. It's not great, but it's really, really good. So anyway, guys, that's all for me. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys soon.